This is a Cabal Phalanx. We all hate Cabal Phalanxes. We hate their shields, we hate their defensive nature, and we especially hate them if they're in a mission where the Berserk modifier is active, because making them flinch is the entire point these guys exist, which makes them suck and they become the most frustrating damn thing ever! Still, their design is pretty cool, and more importantly, a single swing of their shield can send your Guardian flying. So it made me wonder, just how strong are the Cabal? What does it take for a Phalanx to wield their shield? Prepare yourselves, there's a fair deal of math and also guesswork here. Let's start by figuring out just how tall a Cabal Phalanx is. Most sources I've been able to find list the Cabal as averaging somewhere between 5 and 8 feet tall, and unless every Guardian is a Hobbit, I assume that it is the Scions that are 5 feet tall. So let's say that a Phalanx is at the upper end of this average, at 7.5 feet tall fully standing, as the Phalanx class is clearly taller than the frontline soldier of the Cabal, the Legionnaires. Using this height as a scale, we now need to look at his shield. The Phalanx's shield is massive and also capable of stopping all non-explosive firearms at your Guardian's disposal. Looking at a standing Phalanx whose knees are slightly bent and is slightly leaning forward, the shield is actually taller than he is. If the Phalanx were standing straight up, his height and the shield's height would be very similar. By measuring exactly how tall the shield is in pixels, we can also get an idea of how wide it is, which is about 68% of the height, which if the shield is 7 feet 6 inches tall, makes it 5 feet 1 inch wide. The hardest thing to measure on the shield is how thick it is. First, we use the estimated height of a knees bent Phalanx at 7 feet tall as a scale to measure the width of their head. We can use this shot of a Phalanx ready to strike and measure to scale the width of the Phalanx's head, not including all of his helmet augmentations, and do our best to compare that with the width of his shield, which ends up being about 6 inches rounding up. Since the shield isn't a perfect rectangle, having extra parts jutting out from the sides as well as the bottom, I'm going to reduce its total cubic measurement by 15% from this point onwards. So we have a final measurement of 7 feet 6 inches tall, 5 feet 1 inch wide, and 6 inches thick. Now comes the question none of us can really answer. What is the shield made of? The Cabal are masters of war, so they're sure to use the strongest but most lightweight and abundant metals they can arm themselves with, in which case we have one clear metal to compare it with: titanium. Aluminum is lightweight, but not strong enough to be a real comparison, while steel is just as strong as titanium, but significantly more dense, so to me, titanium makes sense. 1 cubic meter of titanium weighs a pretty astounding 4,500 kilograms. 1 cubic meter is also equal to 35.3 cubic feet. The Phalanx's shield, minus the 15% I estimated earlier, comes out to 16.2 cubic feet, or a massive 2,064 kilograms. That's 4,550 pounds. Every single Cabal Phalanx is walking around with a mid-sized SUV strapped to their left arm. And they're swinging these things around like they're made of cardboard. And before anyone argues, but wait, Scan, they're on Mars when you first meet them? The gravity on Mars is less than 40% of Earth's gravity, of course you'd go flying! Your Guardian's jumping ability does not differ from location to location. In my mind, the Traveler, to make life easier for humanity, equalized gravity across all planets in our system in order to encourage faster growth of human civilization. Now, let's look at the speed of a Phalanx's swing. The Phalanx is able to bring the tip of his shield from far over his shoulder all the way across his body in 9 frames of animation, or a little under 1/3 of a second. Assuming that, like humans, the distance from fingertip to fingertip across the Phalanx's whole body is similar to their height, and adding in the length of the shield to the end of his arm on the swing, we can estimate that he swung the shield in a roughly 10-foot arc. This means that he's swinging the shield at 33 feet per second, or just over 10 meters per second. We can now measure the force of that in newtons, which is mass times acceleration. We end up with 20,640 newtons. And that's just the force being delivered by the shield, not including the extra mass and momentum behind it of the Phalanx himself. Just to give you an idea of how hard of a hit that is, the average amateur boxer can punch with about 2,000 to 2,500 newtons of force. A blow of 4,000 newtons is sufficient to fracture a human femur. This shield is being used to bludgeon you with a force greater than if it were dropped and hit you at terminal velocity. Next time you roll your eyes at how far the Phalanx's punch sends you, just think of it that way. A 4,500-pound SUV being dropped and hitting you at maximum speed. So, in the end, we find the Cabal Phalanx is a freakishly powerful wall of metal and muscle, ready to hit you in the face with a car at a moment's notice. Now just imagine how strong a Cabal raid boss could be. Thank you for watching. This has been Scan with GLHF TV.